Hello, I'm Peter Cunningham. I'm the founder of Seraphim, who are the company that produce forecasting software Future. And today I'm talking with Claudio Cosmo, who is the only person in the world who's been in charge from an oil company point of view of two implementations of Future. So perhaps Claudio, would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
Oh, hi. Yes, Claudio Cosmo is my name, and I was the head of reservoir engineering in one of the joint venture companies where we implemented Future, and then a number of years later was the chief reservoir engineer in the second company where we made a second implementation of Future.
Okay, so starting with the first question, when you arrived in these two companies, what were the sort of problems that they were having with production forecasting?
Well, in the first company, it was really a case of their production forecasting methodology was all being conducted on a series of spreadsheets. It was something like 3 or 4 spreadsheets with each with, I don't know, in the order of 15, 20 tabs in each spreadsheet and a number of customized routines in each of these spreadsheets that you had to run through in a very specific way. And there were, all sorts of hard fixes in these spreadsheets, and it was very, very difficult to maintain these, to hand over between people, and also very difficult to visualize a corporate forecast using this spreadsheet methodology. At that point, we had something like, about 150 wells on stream, but I knew that we were going to be moving to something like about 1,000 wells on stream. We were drilling about 120 wells a year at that time, and it was really important that we move away from this spreadsheet methodology. So we went out into the market and looked at a number of different software providers and found that Seraphim seemed to really fit what we were looking for, Seraphim Future in particular. So suddenly we found we tested to see whether we could replicate what was being done on these spreadsheets, and we found that indeed working with Future really enabled us to very quickly go through the wells, do our decline-based forecasting, integrate everything at a pad level, then at various node levels, bringing an integrated forecast together with all of the features that we were trying to implement on the spreadsheet and even more. So it was very good. Well, the second company that I went to, the problem was different. We were working across 3 major assets, in total something like 20 producing fields, most of them offshore. And the software that we were working with was very, very dated. And I think it was already something like 20 years old. And there was a forecasting group that was reporting to me that had to pull together the integrated production forecasts for the company. And I found that many times the asset managers would come down complaining to me about turnaround time, the discrepancies that they noticed between what their reservoir engineers provided to the forecasting team and what actually came out of an integrated forecast. It was very difficult for them to reconcile inputs to outputs because it was not a visual system. Very difficult to work with. Turnaround time for one forecast for this company would take us easily beyond 1 week, easily. And I just had a lot of complaints. And so based on my experience in the first company, I realized that there may have been, there was an opportunity in the second one to perhaps improve the whole process. Indeed, in the second company, we had the benefit of being able to integrate both material balance-based forecasts for simple gas fields, decline-based forecasts, which underpinned most of our oil production declines, oil production forecasts for more mature fields. And then we also were able to integrate files from traditional 3D reservoir simulation, whether it was in Eclipse or other forecasting tools, because we used also other tools for doing our 3D based production forecasting. So we were able to integrate all of these into one model, which was easily auditable. The ownership moved to the reservoir engineers who provided the inputs to the forecasting model, and they were able to test and see the outputs based on the integrated network and all of the constraints. It was easy to manipulate and change constraints on this model. And one of the very important features, although the model, of course, in a complicated network takes a long time to build, one of the important features was that we had a really sharp turnaround time. Once the model was built, we could generate a variation on a forecast within 10, 15 minutes. It was a simple exercise, but getting an integrated corporate production forecast. I mean, it wasn't unusual to have a newly sensitized forecast in, say, 15 minutes. Okay, so I can give you a little bit of perspective on what my vision was at the time when we went into both implementations. I set out, in both cases, I set out with a view that, look, we move into this and we implement this thing, we get it going, and we run with the assumption that if we use it for 5 years for doing both our business plan and for doing our work program and budget and supporting the work program and budget. Business plan was typically a 5-year look ahead. The work program and budget was typically a 1 to 2 year look ahead. And our reserves work, which was a life cycle look ahead, if we could have the system and it would support us for 5 years, then it was a success as an implementation. And as far as I know, right now, in the first location where we implemented it, it's still being used. It's still being used and it's working successfully. And this is now, I don't know, maybe 10 years on, something like that. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember. And in the second implementation, which I believe we got it working in 2017. The idea there also was a 5-year lifetime for this software would for us be a payback, and it would have been a success story, and indeed it is a success story because they're using it for their business plan, for their reserves work, definitely. And I know that they use it at full strength, and it's a large organization and quite a complex network and system that's being solved. And yeah, I feel quite proud about the implementation we made there because at least from the context that I have, it's gone very well, and I think as far as I can tell, there's no immediate view of replacing it with other software. So it primarily supports, I would say, the two key functions, the two key forecasting deliverables tend to be business plans and reserves work. Okay, I think on both occasions, given the benefits that we saw as a result of implementing Future, I think at least my more senior management were always pleasantly surprised by the fact that it always turned out to be very good value for money. I can say that. I think the cost compared to let's say industry 3D reservoir simulations, or perhaps other integrated forecasting tools, it's significantly less. The support, at least in the two implementations that I had, the support that I had from you and your team was very good. It worked well, and I know that we pushed you guys around a little bit, but it seemed to work well.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and indeed thank you for the opportunities over the years and so on. And
yes. Okay, that's good. Thanks, Peter. It was a pleasure working with you and your team. Perhaps we've got, more things coming in future. I don't know. We see.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Huh?